Hello. Thank you all for coming. Hello. So welcome to Wig Styling the Basics. I don't remember what it's called the guidebook, honestly, and I don't think it's the same as what I have on my slide. But anyway, this is a basic panel on going over pretty much what you need to go to get started with styling wigs, as well as we'll go over a couple more advanced things, and then we'll take questions at the end. But first off, to introduce myself, hello, I am Barry, or Barracuda, short for Barracuda. Started cosplaying in 2006, and I actually, which is really funny enough, was like, I'm never gonna wear wigs for cosplay because back then cosplay wigs were awful. Like it was Party City, or like a $40 wig that still was also not great compared to what we have today. So I was like, all right, I'm only blondes, only cosplay. And then I bought my first wig when they became fairly more accessible in the eBay days. And that was around 2011. And I made a mommy wig, the next mommy Tomoe wig, the drill curl wig, like the next year after that. And now I'm currently a wig commissioner. And those are a couple of my recent projects. I did the duo from Hirogata Sky Pretty Cure, Cure Prism and Cure Sky. That's Precure. Let's go. That is another Precure wig on the far right. Is the Cure Peach wig. It doesn't have any of the accessories because my client had all of them. And then in the middle is, I believe it's Gambit from one of the X-Men anime or cartoons. And then of course I have my Miss Uta wig that I made for myself. It rigs with magnets, and I love it. I'm very proud of it. So, where do we start? Where to buy wigs? So, these are a bunch of tested by me and recommended consistent, like brands that can recommend with my whole chest as a as somewhere to buy a wig, and you're not going to end up with something questionable. So, first we have Arda. Arda is based in the U.S. In my opinion, they're my favorite personally. I just really like how their fibers are textured. Their fibers are very high quality. They carry a lot of general styles like long curly, long straight, no bangs, bangs, long bangs, so you can cut them. So they have a lot of generic styles and a lot of colors. And I'm sure, and they also have started doing a handful of character wigs as well. But unfortunately, ever since 2020, they have seemed to have been having stock issues. And while they do restock fairly often, a lot of the time you might have to wait months for a wig if it is on back order. Next, we have Cost Prep, which unfortunately, this is a little outdated because anyway, Costcraft does not currently ship to the U.S., unfortunately, but they are a wig company based in the United Kingdom. They are very similar in Arda in that they have a variety of basic styles as well as a handful of character styles in many colors. The Five Wits, also based in the U.S., they apparently use I think some of their wigs use the similar fibers of Arda. This one is the wigs from Five Wits are typically built more character wigs, but they're fairly loosely styled so that you have a lot of control over that. But they're a great company, smaller, but their customer service is great, and they're shipping so fast. Oh my gosh! So, and then these are the next. These ones are a little more difficult to obtain, but they are still very good resources if you want to commit to them. First, we have Assist. It is based in Tokyo, Japan. There's a storefront in Ikebukuro that sells a lot of rare colors and unique cosplay. Rare colors is in like if you needed like a frosted white, silver, blue. And like their color variety compared to even Arda and the US based companies is insane. And so they also carry other specific cosplay tools and supplies. I really like their hairspray for wigs. I also really like their contacts. I'm wearing them right now. They're very bright, very comfortable, and they're dailies. And then we have Casso. Casso I think they do actually have a U.S. warehouse at this point. But they're originally based in China. They have a variety as well of very basic styled wigs. They also have a handful of lightly styled character wigs. They're also good. They have a lot of like more multicolor wigs. And then there's Classe. Classe is probably the hardest to obtain unless you're trying really hard because it's based in Japan, but it will require a shopping service. But the fibers are amazing, phenomenal, beautiful. They are nice blends, like it's a bunch. But all this to be said, Amazon and AliExpress also carry wigs, and this is a AliExpress wig, I'm pretty sure, or somewhere, some random manufacturer character wig. But so these places, and they're not a bad place to start if you are low on a budget or just want to not spend a lot of money to kind of experiment with a wig. But unfortunately, I will say they are not as reliable as far as quality and construction of the wig. I've unfortunately had to work with a handful of Amazon wigs by mistake or by my own hubris, more correctly. And I've regretted it sometimes, but it is what it is. But yeah, so once you have your base wig, what other things do we need for it? We need a lot of tools. So we got scissors. Don't worry, don't take a picture of this. I have a Amazon like wish list with all the tools in the next slide, so wait for that. So we have scissors. The two best pairs of scissors that you can get would be a pair of hair cutting shears, which is they're typically about 5 or 6 inches long. They're used by barbers, like that's what they're originally manufactured for. And then there are thinning shears. They actually have teeth on one side, so you do not snip the whole. It's not like a whole pincer. It will only snip some of the fiber, and that's really nice for thinning ends. And it's just nice to have, especially with really a lot of wigs that I mentioned on the last slide are fairly thick. So sometimes you'll want to have more wispy ends, and the thinning shears are great for that. Got to be glued. This is the tried and true standard, I feel like, for cosplayers. Because it is a heavier style. Other hairsprays can work. This one I think is a little bit more, has more resins in it than your typical like Garnier or like Bedhead or something. So it sticks to the fibers better. But that's also why I really like the one from Assist, because it's specifically made for wigs. So if you're ever in Tokyo and you can go to Ikebukuro, go to the store and buy 6 cans of the hairspray, because that's what I did. Another high recommendation product would be a wig brush. You should have a wig brush. It's your best friend, especially at a con. Keeps everything. A wire wig brush specifically, or anything that is wide tooth. You can use a tangle teaser. But yeah, we'll continue with the cutting tools, and then we'll move on to the heat tools. And then additionally, you can also get hair razors. They're the bottom left corner. They are, again, another similar to a thinning shear. They kind of like just shave off the fibers and gives you a softer look than just a blunt cut where you have to feather by point cutting. And then we have heat tools. The two that I would recommend at bare minimum is a hair straightener and a steamer. I don't want to put crimper on here, but crimper, it would be the next optional step up. I have a soapbox. Anyway, continuing. And then as far as other products, tacky glue, Uhu glue. Tacky glue and Uhu glue. Why, Barry, do you have 2 different glues up there? Good question. Tacky glue is a water-based gel-like glue that takes a little longer to dry, but it's water-based, so if you mess up, you just spritz a little water on it and rinse it out. The Uhu glue, on the other hand, or any other solvent-based glue, like E6000, that is permanent. And you can soak it off with acetone, but it leaves residue and makes a total mess. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Anyway, but Uhu is a wonderful glue. It is extremely powerful. I love to use it for really adhering fiber to wigs, and it's a great glue, and it's in most typical toolboxes. And then we have a teasing comb, a fine tooth comb, and a little brush. You can also get just a toothbrush for the tiny brush, and it does the same thing. It's just to smooth away flyaways. I don't know exactly what it's called, but teasing brush, fine tooth comb, both essential for making clean styling and also teasing your wig. And lastly, we have a hair duckbill pin clips. These will help section off your hair, so it's much easier to style wigs in chunks and sections. And this helps move all the other and hold the other sections out of the way, so you can work on one section at a time. So here is the basic shopping list. You can buy these products on not Amazon. I just couldn't think of another way to make a list that was easily accessible, but also all right, I'm putting up for another couple seconds. Looks like everyone got it. One last call. Boop. Okay, so now that we have our wig, now that we have our tools for our wig, we are going to talk about the basic things that I think should be skill sets that you should you should be able to use that will make wig styling easy or easier. Wig styling is not easy. As you can see, my wig is being crazy. Wig styling, it's always an adventure every single time. Every wig I do is an adventure. But these are tools that can help make it a little more bearable. So we have cutting, trimming, and point cutting. These are the typical ways that you can take length off of a wig. Fiber is not like human hair. It is not as nearly elastic or, depending on the hair texture, fine or thick. It does not behave like human hair because it is plastic, and it requires a different technique for cutting. So cutting, typically, you would think, if you cut just straight across and you just do that, you're going to get a blunt cut. And it's going to look like a straight line, and then it's probably not all even going to be even, and you're just going to have little bits like floating off of it, and it's going to look terrible. You can do that. I generally do that if I need to like chop length. And then I will go in and trim and point cut. Trimming, you open your scissors and then you kind of like run them along the fiber, if that makes sense, and like use it like a razor almost, and kind of like shave it. That's the best way to cut a wig and get a nice feathery fringe on it. And then point cutting. Point cutting is for cleaning up things. Typically, it's for thinning out ends. So if you did happen to accidentally do a blunt cut, you can go back with a point where you're taking your scissors, you're pointing them directly parallel with your fiber, and you're just snipping along, getting some of it, and it gets some of the fiber shorter, but not all of them, and it thins out the ends of your cuts. So other than basic cutting techniques, we are talking about teasing for volume. Teasing for volume is important, obviously, because some wigs are very flat. Sometimes, and most anime characters have crazy hairstyles, or video game characters, or anyone, and you want to get that big, fluffy look. Teasing is a wonderful technique. It is best done, unlike real hair, where you just kind of back comb it to knot it. You actually are going to want to back comb it with heat. So you take like a straightener and you run it along your fiber, heat them up, because it's plastic, right? So you can literally just melt the fiber and bend it to your will. And so you take your hair straightener, and while the fibers are still warm, you can gently back comb your fiber with a teasing brush, and then once you let it cool down, so it stays all crinkly, and then when you are done brushing it out, it comes and brushes out into nice, beautiful cotton candy, which then is much easier to handle and style as the texture of the hair has changed at that point. I really hate to say it, because also it's like, You feel terrible for it, but you're essentially going to be ruining some of the fibers of the wig just for this in the name of manageability and styling big things. Crimping is another technique that can be used for volume. It is probably more of a no-brainer technique, but it is also a fairly newer technique to be introduced to the world of cosplay wig styling. But it is a very handy-dandy thing also for manageability. If you crimp a long wig, like, you know how, who has a problem with the rat's nest that you get at the back of your neck on a long wig? Yeah, exactly. So if you crimp that like 4 or 5 rows at the very bottom, bare minimum, even if you hate what crimp marks look like, you can't see them because it's underneath. That will keep it from getting that rat's nest and make it much more easy to brush out. So hot tip. That's your hot tip for right now. I mean, plenty more. But anyway. So crimping, again, is also, you can't reverse crimping, I will say, as far as, once you crimp it, the fibers won't go back because you've impressed that shape into the plastic. And no matter how much you brush it, you can get it smooth, but it'll never be perfect again. And that's just the nature of how the heat tool works. But again, if you are okay with having some texture and also are able to continue treat your fibers with either a steamer or additional heat tools, you can make it work and minimize your crimps. And then, of course, we have other basic things like curling and spiking. Spiking is obviously, it is a combination of sculpting and teasing. Mostly teasing. You tease essentially a chunk, and you kind of brush it out and like sculpt the shape with like that chunk, and then you brush it out around it or have extra fiber around it, and it makes it smooth it all out and make a spike. Wonderful, excellent. And curling, you can use curling wands, any heat tool. You need to use heat. That is the biggest tip for wig styling. All right, so prepping your wig. Secure your wig to a styrofoam head or a wig block. So styrofoam heads are good because they're easy to find, they're cheap, and they are, like I said, they're easy to find. The only catch is even the male wig heads, which are the ones with the male faces, are probably, I think, about a 21-inch circumference, which most people have a 22-inch to 23-inch circumference, unless you have a small head like me, which is a 21.5-inch. But some people, the average ranges from around like 21 inches to 24 inches as far as average head circumference. They do actually make wig blocks in different sizes, which I prefer over a styrofoam head. They're a little sturdier, and they just, it's just a block though, so you will have to mark in your, like, where you have to take like measurements, like if you want the most accurate results, like take a few, like from your eyebrows to your hairline, et cetera, et cetera. But they are a lot more sturdy for this kind of thing, and it's they don't wobble as much on like a wig head, and yeah. So the next thing, once you have it secured to your wig head, is you're gonna brush out your fiber. Most of these wigs have been like sitting in a bag since they were shipped over from wherever their manufacturer shipped them from, and originally probably most likely from China. And they probably need to be brushed. You will lose a bit of fiber in this stage just because there's just loose fiber and just the process, and fiber is loose. But a wig shedding is totally normal. I'll promise you that if you're a total newbie. And then the next step after you've brushed your wig, make it kind of just arrange it so you have a nice clean slate, nice organized, not tangly, it's not sticking up in places. And then we will start to treat our wig with heat. This is what I call texturizing. It also is probably more commonly known by most as just crimping a wig. I think there are ways to utilize both crimping and teasing to texturize your fiber, not either just by doing both treating all of your fibers by both crimping and teasing them, or you can tease some of your fibers and crimp other fibers. But But yeah, so all right. I already talked about this. But yeah, so that's kind of what the thinning shears look like better. You can see the teeth better. They've got like just like little teeth on them. Yeah. And yeah, when you're cutting a wig, measure, measure twice and cut once. Because it's not going to grow back. It doesn't grow back. And go slow. If you are unsure and unconfident, go slow. You can go in increments. The only time that you would need to have a confident snip at one level is if you were harvesting the wefts and you needed that length. But if you, honestly, I do typically like, I'll be like, all right, let's say I would need to cut it here. I'll mark slightly lower so that I can cut the length and then clean it up by feathering and thinning out by point cutting and doing the slide fiber technique. Glues and adhesives. So again, I talked a little bit about this earlier. There are many glues. Not all are equal. Like I said, water-based glues, techie glues, also Tombow Aqua or Uhu. Those are the most common ones I typically see being used by most wig stylists. They're really good for securing loose flyaways, creating loose fiber wefts. I prefer that to doing them with Uhu glue. Just because, again, like I said, if you mess up or get a little bit of a residue, you can just like gently spritz the fiber with a little bit of water and kind of smooth away any residue or white buildup or anything. Or if you mess up, you can fix it. Then we have the Uhu glue or Uhu all-purpose, which is something I would recommend using PPE with if you can. Like gloves, a respirator, or a well-ventilated room, just because it does have fumes. And it does anything that's stinky, use PPE. I promise. So this one I really like using for securing the loose weft fiber, the fiber wefts to a wig once they've become wefts, and permanent placement. So once I know for 100% sure this is where I need this fiber to go, that's when I go in with the Uhu all-purpose. Hot glue. Hot glue is also a great tool. Hot glue, I know, has a bad rap for being very messy, but hot glue does have its place in the wig styling world. It is also good for permanent placement, and it is also very good for, oh, I have a typo. Securing, it's very good for, like, if you need to glue, like, a hat or something that you aren't going to remove from it, or like an addendum, an accessory. It's very good for, or you want to glue magnets into your wig. It's got its place. It does not stretch and is not nearly as flexible as either the Uhu glues or the water-based glues, but it does hold really strongly. And then we have the Got2b glue, which is more for shaping and finalizing styles. All right, we got some more quick tips, and then let's see. Well, I wanted to get half hour of my lecture and then half hour for Q&A. So, quick tips. Trust the process. Unfortunately, this is the best method towards success. Some wigs have an ugly phase. Most wigs have ugly phases. I promise. This is a wig I made the other day in its ugly phase. It is no longer, does not look like that anymore. It looks like a nice, I don't know if I have a picture of the final in here, which is, I can get one in a sec. But anyway, every wig has an ugly phase, so do not be concerned. Trust the process. Some ugly phases last for longer, and try not to let it frustrate you, but I do understand there is a frustration there. But don't be scared if your wig is like, you're like, oh my God, this looks like crap. And then another, like I said, I mentioned this briefly, teasing until really fluffy and then sculpting the fiber down into the required shapes that you need is probably the best way to get significant, like, big shapes without adding structure. When you're texting, like, that was a cheapo Amazon wig, that blue feather, the blue wig on the screen. That was a cheapo Amazon wig. I literally just used my heat method. I heated the fibers and backcombed them, brushed it out, and that's what I got. I got a huge amount of fluff and a lot of real estate now to work with. So once you have that, you can essentially sculpt it down with either a straightening iron and go layer by layer, or you can use a steamer with a comb to kind of like build your shape, and that will really mold the fibers into that shape because the heat will set them. If you're going to do that, make sure you hold your fiber until it's totally cooled down, or use pins or something to hold it in its shape because it needs to set in that shape. In regards to making loose fiber wefts, use a tool. Don't use your fingers. You can use your fingers. It's really messy. And if you have sensory issues with your hands like I do, it's not very pleasant to have little bits of fiber and lots of sticky glue on your hands. So there are things like the backs of a rat tail comb or a silicone stir stick. Anything smooth, and I've used the back of a comb works because I already have it in my wig room, so I just take it out and use the back of it. And also a silicone mat is great to invest in, as far as just keeping your surfaces clean from getting all glue covered, or plastic wrap works too. Or I've seen people use like packing styrofoam too as a base for it. And another regard to adhesives, try not to overwork them because you will start to see buildup. You will get that white gunk showing up if you kind of keep touching your fiber, even with the tools, because it just kind of keeps going over itself and it just makes it messy. And like I said before, teasing is reversible, crimping is not. Crimping, just because of how it is, you're literally melting the fiber into that shape. It's much harder to reverse that than just warming the fiber and essentially crumbling it. So you get a different texture, of course, but it is one that you can reverse. Like I've taken that frizzy wig, I could have taken that back to mostly normal. That's the end of the presentation, apparently. All right. But anyway, so those are some fun tips. So now I think we're going to have a Q&A for anything and everything you want to know about wigs. For those who just came in, I will put my shopping list back up. And yeah, so who has a wig question? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course, of course. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. All right, so spikes. Spikes, there are a lot of tutorials out there, and Melinda Chan is very great. If you don't follow her, her wigs are incredible, impeccable. But basically how it works, you take your chunk of fiber that you want to make your spike, you kind of separate out the outside weft. So think this is my chunk. And I take out kind of the outside of it essentially, so you have clean fiber that is not damaged in the way you're going to damage it next. The rest of the fiber to create the core for your spike. So once you have the inside section, you're going to do the heat and tease. So you're going to take your fiber, use your heat tool to either crimp it or tease it, or do both, anything to get it fluffy and build up build up a core. You're building up the structure for the spike that's going to hold it in place. This also requires utilizing hairspray, and sometimes I've used glue. But anyway, glue I use typically more to finish, though. Hairspray is really good, though, as base pour, to help with the build up the base pour. So you would tease it, and then once it is teased and brushed out and big and fluffy, you can kind of sculpt it with and then you can start incorporating the fiber from the outside of that spike to that and smooth everything out. And once it is smooth and you're happy with the shape, you can finish the tip with a bit of clear tacky glue. I recommend clear tacky glue just because it's got more of a gel-like texture, so it's not super runny, and it is water-based. So again, if you need to, it will be reversible and less likely to leave residue as well instead of working with a new glue or something. Does that answer your question? Excellent. All right. Who else? Yes, you. If you want to come up to the mic, if you're soft-spoken, or you can just shout it, I don't care.
in case people need help hearing. Okay, so once you have, so say I have a straightener and a crimper, once they become wig, like you use them on a wig, can then you use them on your hair, or are they now wig tools?
No. You can use them on your hair.
Okay,
I
so
mean, if they're not foods. I mean, you're not eating your hair.
right.
So.
Well,
Yeah, no, you can.
most people aren't.
Yeah, I use my hair straighteners on both my hair and.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're good. All right. You in the purple glass with the glasses.
Yeah, so my question is, I know with longer wigs, oftentimes those are very annoying and difficult with the tangling
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this stuff.
Yeah. Crimping.
I would say I crimped those wigs.
Mm-hmm.
However, I know that I had one recently where I crimped it in order to preserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's so thick.
Mm-hmm.
It's thick.
Yeah, that does happen.
So from this, how would you kind of like, I guess, get the flatness back on that? Like,
Steam the crap out of it. Take your steamer, literally kind of give it like if it's like a pigtail clip or something, like attach it to something, give it some tension, and just hold the steamer as close to the fibers as possible, and it will deflate them.
got it. Thanks. Yeah.
Just be like hold it like not touching the fiber, but like right up to the fiber, and make sure there is tension pulling the fiber down, so you're compressing everything, and then brush it out. You should be able to bring it down.
Thank you.
Joe in the back. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yes. 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 No, the crimping for whatever reason, and I'm keep promising I'm gonna do a deep dive on crimping and why it doesn't make wigs tangly, but I think it just has to do with the micro like kinks in it and that they don't catch on each other as much. But anyway, that's just from crimping 1,000,005 wigs. All right, you in the front.
So, one of the things that I learned from watching Australia
Mhm.
is that sometimes they want their wigs. What is the best practice?
Best practice for watching your wig. If it is a wig that is a helmet wig or something that cannot get wet and does not think you'd easily be able to restyle it, just use the same trick you would use on a costume, which is 1 part water, 1 part vodka, or rubbing alcohol, and just deodorize it. Essentially, it'll kill the bacteria as well inside your wig cap. But as far as cleaning a wig, any of the really heavily styled wigs are very difficult to clean without totally destroying, because once you put a wig in water, it will lose every form of it. It becomes a really nasty mess, and you will have to brush it out and restyle it if you are going to fully wash a wig, which is possible. But again, if you are just looking to preserve your styling and keep it clean, water and vodka, or water and rubbing alcohol. You in front? Yeah. Preserving it for shipping. Usually I will coat it in as much glue and hairspray as is appropriate for the styling. And then I usually pack it in a box that probably gives about like a couple inches of leeway on either side of the wig. And typically I will pack the wig upright and just pack paper around it, and like kind of in between if there's like a shape, or like if it's like, for example, I just sent a Sonic wig away, I would kind of like layer it in with like the paper. So like you can get creative. I've seen people also solution with like saran wrap around bigger parts. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Yes, with the glove. Mm-hmm. So I usually just bring a big, just like a packing box, and I just put all my wigs on wig heads, and just put other like soft stuff around them, and then just put them into my car. If you're going to be flying, they do make like wig carry cases, but those are very big usually. They're fairly bulky. I just spray and kind of like, again, wrap things in like plastic wrap that can be wrapped, or anything basically to minimize as much damage as possible to the wig. So just pack it smartly, wrap it like you're packing something very fragile. Yeah.
My question was actually help line since I'm going to town in LA too.
Uh-huh.
I'm usually, I guess, back or you would carry on. Like, how do you do that? And also, if you're, especially for long distance flights.
Long distance flights, considering I brought my Miorine wig with me to Tokyo, and actually to Nagoya, because we were at World Cosplay Summit. And so I just prayed. I packed it very carefully and then packed my clothes strategically around it. And just essentially utilize the rest of my packing, like the clothing and stuff that needs to get packed, as almost like a mold to like fit the shape in, and then cover it gently with like a flat layer or whatever shape I need to like protect it. And you just kind of pack around it. You just gotta. That's my best method. You can also the tried and true Build-A-Bear boxes, but apparently you have to pay for those now.
You do.
Which I'm like, it's a box. But anyway, I think there was a comment, someone in the back that raised their hand. You with the glasses and the beanie. Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely do that. Absolutely. I combine cheap wigs all the time. Yeah. So basically, are you asking like how the technique behind that? Yeah. Okay. So what you do, you take one wig, you have that as your base. So wigs, if you've ever seen the inside of a wig, they have those tracks, right? Either typically it will be on strips of elastic, or it will be on mesh, a net. And then what you're gonna do, you're gonna take your second wig, which is the wig you're gonna be harvesting from and totally destroying. You literally go in with a seam ripper or a razor if you're careful, but I prefer seam ripper for this because the wefts are literally just sewn to the elastic. So they're very easy to remove. And once you remove them from your one wig, you have just wefts. You just have, that's what I call a weft. Or what is called weft, more correctly. And once you take that, you can either glue or sew that weft into your wig. I typically like, just because it's faster, gluing, and how you're going to glue is specific in that you're going to take one track and glue it directly over that track instead of gluing in between tracks like you would think, because glue does not stretch, but you need that elastic to stretch, unless you're making a helmet wig, and then that's a whole different story. But if you're just looking to combine two wigs, you can just glue another layer or hand stitch. You can just use a basic running stitch and just stitch it on top of that weft and just go row by row and combine them that way. Does that understand? All right, Lamb. Yeah. Okay. So, my first recommendation is if you have a wig block or even just a basic styrofoam wig head, is to make a copy of your actual head and make that helmet fit your exact head measurements. Because that way you will not need to rely on bobby pins. It will literally just sit on your head like a hat and form to your head shape. So that is what I would do if you are already past that stage. You can add like loops of thread. You can just literally stick a bobby pin through the batting that you're using. You can poke hole, like mini holes if you're using a foss shape base. There's various ways to do it. You just got to get creative. All right, let's see. In the back with the mask. Yeah, so if you want to do that, the least painful way of doing that is to remove the wefts that already exist in the one color wig that you want on top. And you can either just remove them all individually per row, and then you would harvest or take a pack of wefts and sew in or glue in a new row. I would recommend in that case sewing, just because you will have to go over the elastics. But gluing does work, and if you don't need it, if you stretch it on like a block or a wig a head that fits you, and you have it again, you essentially are creating a soft helmet. So yeah, you would basically just take the wefts or dip from that you want in that color and just pick how long, how like where you want that color to start, and you just remove the wefts below on the original wig. All right, who else? Red hair with the gray or tea olive, whatever. You, yes. A lot of hair. You're going to want to learn how to French braid your hair and compress it into Dutch braids that kind of wrap around your head. And then you will use U-pins and secure all of that and compress it down as much as possible. And then I would also recommend, they sell these wig caps that have a wig grip essentially built into them, and that will help secure everything. Also, using a double cap method where you put a netted cap and then a stocking cap over it will also help compress the hair. Yeah, of course. You,
Do you have any advice for like doing really heavy wigs for like minimizing
wig grips. It's a velvet headband that is, I believe it's on my Amazon list. It is basically just a velvet headband. Some of them have like a piece where, like, if you have like a lace that, so it doesn't show your hairline, or it doesn't show under the lace front. But yeah, the wig grip, I have a wig that is like super back heavy. I can only wear it with a wig grip. So wig grips will help minimize that just because it gives you the extra padding and gives the wig more to grip onto than just your hair and the wig cap. But yeah, and then then take breaks if you need to. Don't be afraid to stop and go to the bathroom and readjust your wig if you're at a con, or go back up to your room and I refresh this wig. But wig grips really save the day every time. All right, horse Tayshawn. Are you Tayshawn? Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So like little spikes, you mean like kind of more like piecey spikes? Yeah. So what I like to do for those is I will take. I'm a huge lover of clear check glue. That's my like biggest tool in my arsenal. I literally buy it. I buy multiple big ones, and then I have a one because they don't sell the packaging anymore. I have one that's like an upside. It's upside down shaped. It's like this one. It's got the nozzles on the bottom. So I just keep refilling that bottle because they don't sell that style of glue bottle anymore. But anyway, I digress. You're basically going to want to take your piece to make it. You will thin it out with either thinning shears or point cutting, and then you will just kind of smooth some glue over it, and then heat set the glue. And if you need to, you can use a steamer to kind of like set the shape. Steamers are, I would say, if you have a budget for it, I mean, steamers, you can get a basic steamer for like $15-20 on the internet. Or go to TJ Maxx or any of those discount box stores, and they're everywhere. I highly recommend. They are an extremely powerful tool for wig styling. But yeah, they'll literally just make your shapes and then again hold it in place, and then you can seal the end of that spike with the glue. You in back. So, depending on the wig, it typically will need to be a certain how the wig is built. If you are looking for that, they do typically sell. They sell both like a hardtop skin front that it's basically you need to have a wig that is able to go in the direction of sweat back. So there are specialty wigs. You can find them, and then there's also what is called a lace front, which has a lace. This is what's considered a skin top, what I'm wearing right now, where it's just got like pieces that are embedded in plastic, but they have a full 180 degree or a 360 degree like movement to them, so they can be positioned essentially in whatever direction, as opposed to a weft that is unidirectional. But then there's also a lace front that is again similar thing, but they're hand knotted into lace typically. So that's you would usually need to find or create a way to make it go in the direction you need to make it stay. You.
let's say hypothetically, I'm complete novice, that are from the learning.
Yeah.
Good, like, resources.
Melinda Chan and a lot of Arto at Wigs has a lot of tutorials on their website. YouTube is chock full of them. Honeycomb, HANIE, comb, COMB. It's one word. Honeycomb has a lot of really nice basic techniques, tutorials. How do you think? Who else does good wig tutorials? Yeah, I would definitely. Arta covers a lot of basics. I think Epic has a handful of tutorials as well, but Arta, I know for sure has and they're all mostly done by my friend Melinda, who is very talented. All right, school uniform in the back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, you can. For me, it will really depend if it is a wig. I am okay with committing to that character. Like if it's a wig that I'm like, I know this is only being used for this character, I will probably usually go more for glue, just because glue is faster and very permanent typically if you're using hot glue or uhu glue. And typically more secure in a lot of cases, unless you do a lot of like really secure tacking with your sewing. But sewing is also a valid option. Yellow, I think you're cosplaying from the Netflix show. Thank you. Cyberpunk. Yeah, so glued front hairlines are fairly easy to do. So you're going to want to create basically itty bitty versions of the loose fiber wefts, and you're going to want to make them all like have a little point to them. So you can get like, if you think about how the hair grows out of your head, it grows out in like pieces and like, or if you look at, or you can even mimic like anime, you know how they have like the jagged edge lines and whatnot for the hairstyle. You can mimic the hairstyle by making like very tiny loose fiber wefts, and essentially you would can glue them just to like the front of the wig. You can also add, if you need to build up the hairline, you can use felt or lace. They do felt with lace as is, as just like without the hair knotted into it. And kind of attach that to your wig and glue onto that so it has something to hold on to. And then you just kind of glue it all in place and shape it to how you desire. All right. Anyone else? Questions? Sharp band like Sephiroth bangs typically will require something like wire or an inner structure. So typically what I would do for that is, as far as like mostly a budget-friendly option, you can use either a craft foam or some kind of like something that has a little more like it can stand up to like being glued on basically. So craft foam, or a classic method is form wire with packing tape on it. That's a big favored method, just because the packing tape is typically clear, so it's less visible. So basically you would attach that rig into your wig, and then you would carefully glue your fiber over it. I typically recommend, if you are going to make a shape, mounting your shape after you cover it with like a majority of your fiber, and then just whatever is coming from the wig on like once you've already attached it, to just clean it up and make the connection clean. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. You with the yes. Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So actually, if you go to the website lumika.com, Lumikah, I believe is how you spell it, Lumika Cosplay, if you look it up. They are a secondhand cosplay reseller, and you can get an Arta wig for cheap. You can get a brand name wig because you might have to like brush it out. It might be a used wig, but it'll be a cheaper option than getting a brand new $40 wig. Yeah. Purple in the back. Avoiding damage when transporting. Bring stuff to repair with. I unfortunately, unless you're going to take your time to wrap everything in plastic and kind of protect it that way, just pray and bring repair tools. I always bring, actually here, perfect. I have my wig emergency kit that I was thinking that I didn't add to this, but I was like, oh, right before I came down, was like, oh, that's a good thing. I should, wig emergency kit to your con is, pretty much, this is my toolkit, is what I have up on the screen, is what I bring to a con. I bring a heat tool, I bring my flat iron, I bring my wig brush, bring my shears, and I bring glue. And that usually helps with any mishaps. And a head, if it's on the head, assumably. If it's assumably something that's heavily sired, bring it on a wig head. Don't recommend putting it in a bag unless it is something that can be styled on your head, or you bring it with a head as well to style up. Anyone else?
I was wondering, what's good for long-term storage?
Long-term storage for wigs, there's kind of, like, other than just amassing a bunch of wigs on wig heads, unfortunately, not really much of an option. I have, like, flat, just, like, straight, like, shelves that I just mount, and I just put them. They do sell, like, either, like, it's like a post hook that, like, you can stick a wig head on, or they sell, like, an arch that you can just hang it's essentially a hanging wig head at that point. So that's how I store my wigs. Again, it really comes down to how often you are using the wig. If it is a long-term wig and it's heavily styled, but you can stick it in a bag as long as you're willing to be able to fix it. Okay. You know where to find me? Fair, but my DMs are open. So they do sell these really cool things, and I believe it is on the Amazon wish list. I call it a wig diaper, but it's not. It's like it's essentially a wire hoop that has a catch, and then it hooks onto the mannequin or the wig head, and it kind of hangs underneath it, so it catches your fiber. That I do that. I'll just kind of do my cutting and then clean up too. If I don't feel like pulling out the wig diaper, because it does get in the way sometimes, and isn't as great for longer wigs. But I will just kind of, and if I am working with longer fiber, typically I will section off pieces of the wig to cut individually, just so I have essentially bundles of fiber as opposed to just loose fiber everywhere. Anyone else? I think we have time for a couple more questions if I'm quick. Yeah. Yeah, so that is, again, what you're going to want to look for is either a skin front wig that you can just kind of shape that in, because it's got a skin top that goes directly to the front of the wig and kind of like wraps underneath it. You can do that. You can do a glued hairline, which is what I was explaining a little earlier, where you take itty bitty little like chunks of loose fiber and just individually glue them down to like keep the shape. That also works, I really like, because the glue will stiffen the fiber, and if you need it to kind of stick up a little bit and then fold over, you just kind of glue just past that bend, and it'll keep your shape, as well as give it that extra additional structure that it wouldn't have without the glue. Or you can use a lace front in similar scenario of build it up, give it a structure at the base, and then the loose fiber just essentially, you hold it, it's like kind of, it grab it. Think of it, you're just holding something, and then whatever is, build it up as high as you need, and then the rest flops over. All right, pink.
So I'm thinking of those boxes,
Okay,
and I made it feel not pretty size.
okay,
Stitched it in, and got all my hair up, and then
yeah,
and when I went to the wig
Yes. So that again, I do recommend if you have the time and you don't want to invest in a wig block that is your similar circumference. And even if you do have a wig block, not all wig blocks have the right shape to them. So like they might need to be padded out if your head is either like more round than the wig head or not. But typically, I will pin the wig as taut as possible onto the onto the block before I even start styling to guarantee that it is already stretched when I start manipulating the fiber into my pulled up styles.
And is it better to go longer? Because I have people long, send it to about shoulder length, and then
Yeah, I mean, it does. I feel like as long as it's long enough to make the shape that you want, that really would determine more than anything. Because essentially, if you are looking to have a continuous, let's say, go from your temples out to about here, like a bouffant, you would probably want something about like a mid-length at most. You can just, but a longer wig, obviously, you have more fiber. You can take away more fiber, but you can't add more fiber unless you're adding another longer one to it. But yeah, Joe.
So, crimping and teasing are also
Yeah,
teasing is reversible.
yeah, yeah.
So why would you ever crimp?
Because crimping is much faster and less like it's less demanding in that you literally are just kind of down your wig, and then you just kind of brush it through and it kind of smooths it out. The reason, again, I think crimping is because how it damages the fiber in a way that makes it a different enough of a texture than what the basics are, when like what a typical like connect along fiber is, to kind of build shapes and make the wig fluffier and more easy to manipulate. So I find crimping, typically using the smallest teeth and then like going over it a couple times and make sure you have some tension when you are brushing it out. Just you're essentially kind of relaxing some of that crimp to it to reduce your crimp marks. But it does make it more manageable in a way that that teasing does not, because teasing will make this giant mess. And where crimping is a little bit more controlled. So it really depends. I typically prefer for longer wigs to start with crimping, but shorter wigs and shorter parts of wigs, I will prefer teasing for the exact reason of being able to style it more easily from the messier state, if that makes sense. All right. I think we will wrap up a couple minutes early, but thank you all so much for coming. If you want, I have some. Thank you. I have some cosplay cards up here. If you want some cosplay cards.